My name is Opal, and at 61 years old, I thought I understood what it meant to be a mother. For 35 years, I sacrificed, saved, and gave everything to my daughter. My husband Frank passed 3 years ago, leaving me with memories and a modest savings. But there are moments when love feels one sided, when generosity becomes invisible. Last Father's Day, my daughter told me I wasn't welcome at her family dinner, so I canceled their mortgage check. Before we get into what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments. If you've ever felt taken for granted by someone you've given everything, to hit that like button. And please subscribe, because this story is about finding your voice when you've been silent too long. Now, let me tell you about the moment I realized generosity without boundaries becomes a prison. I met Frank Thompson when I was 25 years old in Austin, Texas. He was a soft spoken electrical technician with calloused hands and the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. I was working night shifts as a nurse at Del Seaton Medical Center, and he came in one evening with a coworker who'd been shocked on the job. While his friend got treated, Frank sat in the waiting room and we started talking. 3 months later, we were inseparable. 2 years after that, we got married in a small ceremony at Zilker Park with 20 guests and wildflowers in my hair. Those early years were simple but full. We lived in a modest ranch house on the east side of Austin, the kind with a front porch that sagged a little, and a backyard big enough for a vegetable garden. Frank worked long hours sometimes, pulling double shifts when construction projects ran behind schedule. I kept my nursing job working 3 12-hour shifts a week so I could be home the other days. We were saving for something bigger, something that felt just out of reach, but worth working toward. When I got pregnant at 29, Frank cried. Not sad tears, but the kind that come from a joy so deep you can't contain it. He built a crib from scratch in our garage, sanding every edge until it was smooth as glass. Heather arrived on a humid August morning, 6 pounds and 12 ounces of pink skin and dark hair. From the moment they placed her in my arms, I knew my life had found its purpose. We gave Heather everything we could, maybe more than we should have. She took ballet lessons at the community center starting when she was 5. Frank would sit in the waiting room every Tuesday and Thursday, still in his work boots, watching through the glass as she twirled in her pink leotard. When she wanted to try piano, we found a used upright on Craigslist and paid a college student $20 an hour to teach her. Summer camps, school field trips, a used car when she turned 16. We said yes more than we said no. I picked up extra shifts when Heather started talking about college. She had her heart set on Texas State University in San Marcos, wanted to study marketing and live in the dorms. The tuition wasn't astronomical, but it wasn't cheap either. Frank and I sat at our kitchen table one night, spreading out bills and bank statements, doing the math. We could make it work if I went to full-time nights and Frank took on weekend side jobs. So that's what we did. For 4 years, I barely saw daylight. I'd come home at 7 in the morning, sleep until 2, then get up to make dinner before heading back to the hospital. Frank installed security systems on Saturdays and Sundays, coming home exhausted but never complaining. Heather graduated with honors. The photos from that day are some of my favorites. Frank in a pressed shirt that was slightly too tight around the collar, me in a floral dress I'd bought on sale, and Heather in her cap and gown grinning like she'd conquered the world. In a way, she had. She got a job in Houston 3 months later, moved into an apartment with 2 roommates, and started her adult life. That's when she met Brad. He worked in sales for a telecommunications company, drove a leased BMW, and had the kind of confidence that borders on arrogance. They got married 2 years later in a hotel ballroom in Houston. Frank and I paid for half the wedding. Heather said they'd pay us back, but they never did. We didn't push it. She was our daughter. Family helps family. Frank died on a Tuesday afternoon. He was in our garage changing the oil in his truck when his heart just stopped. The neighbor found him an hour later when she came over to borrow a ladder. Massive coronary, the doctor said. He likely didn't feel much pain. That was supposed to comfort me, but it didn't. I kept thinking about him being alone in that garage, the radio playing some country song, his hands covered in motor oil, and no one there to hold him. The funeral was small. Frank had been a quiet man, didn't make a lot of fuss, so it seemed fitting. Heather came with Brad and their 2 kids, Connor and Sophia. She stayed for a week after helping me sort through Frank's things, boxing up clothes to donate, organizing paperwork. I appreciated her being there, but she seemed distant, distracted. She kept checking her phone, stepping outside to take calls. On her last day, she hugged me at the door and said, "Call me if you need anything, Mom." Then she drove back to Houston and I was alone. The life insurance policy paid out $250,000. Combined with our savings and Frank's retirement account, I had just under 400,000. It felt like a lot of money and no money at all. A lot because I'd never seen that many zeros in my bank account. Not at all, because no amount could bring Frank back or fill the silence in our house. Heather started calling more after that. At first, I thought she was checking on me, making sure I was eating and sleeping and not drowning in grief. But her questions always circled back to money. Mom, are you managing okay financially? Have you thought about what you'll do with Dad's life insurance? Do you have a financial advisor? I told her I was fine, that I had my pension from the hospital and Social Security would kick in soon. I didn't need much. The house was paid off, I didn't travel, and my needs were simple. 6 months after Frank died, Heather called with urgency in her voice. Brad had lost his job. The company downsized, and he was let go with 2 weeks' severance. They were struggling to make rent on their apartment. Could I help? Just $5,000 to get them through until Brad found something new. I didn't hesitate. I logged into my bank account that same day and transferred the money. Heather cried on the phone, said I was saving them, that she'd pay me back as soon as things stabilized. 2 months later, she called again. Their car broke down. The transmission needed replacing, and the mechanic quoted $3,000. She apologized for asking, promised this was the last time, swore Brad's new job was starting next month. I sent the money. Then it was medical bills. Sophia had to see a specialist for her asthma, and their insurance didn't cover it. $4,000. I sent it. Then it was house repairs at the place they were renting. The landlord wouldn't fix the leaking roof, so they had to hire someone themselves. $2,000. I sent it. Over 2 years, I gave Heather $45,000. Not once did she pay any of it back. Not once did I ask her to. My friends Lorraine and Joyce would come over for coffee and gently suggest I was being taken advantage of. Lorraine, who'd been a teacher for 40 years and had 3 kids of her own, said, "Opal, honey, you can't keep doing this. She's a grown woman." Joyce Blunt has always said, "She's bleeding you dry." But I'd defend Heather. She was my daughter. She was struggling. What kind of mother would I be if I didn't help? This past April, Heather called with excitement bubbling in her voice. They'd found a house. Not an apartment, but a real house with a yard and 4 bedrooms in a neighborhood with good schools. Sugar Land, she said, a nice suburb southwest of Houston. The place had a 2-car garage, a big kitchen, and enough space for Connor and Sophia to have their own rooms finally. She sent me photos. It was beautiful. Beige siding, black shutters, a neat lawn, and a porch with white columns. The asking price was $350,000. Brad's job was stable now, she said. He was managing a sales team, bringing in decent commissions. They'd been approved for a mortgage, but there was one problem. They needed the down payment. 14%. $50,000. Did I have it? I stared at my phone for a long time after that call. 50,000 was different from 5,000 here and there. It was a significant chunk of what I had left. I thought about Frank, about those nights he'd come home too tired to eat, collapsing on the couch with his work boots still on. I thought about my own aching feet after those night shifts, the way my back would scream by hour 10. All that sacrifice, all those years, and here was my daughter asking for more. But she was talking about my grandchildren. Connor, who loved dinosaurs and building Lego sets. Sophia, who sang in the school choir and wanted to be a veterinarian. They deserved a good home, a safe neighborhood stability. What was the money for if not to help the people I loved? I called Lorraine. She listened while I explained. Then she was quiet for a long moment. "Opal," she finally said, "that's your security. That's what you'll live on when you're older and can't work. You're 61. You need to think about your future." Joyce was even more direct. "Don't do it," she said flatly. "She'll never pay you back, you know that, right?" I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Heather as a little girl, how she'd climb into my lap. When she was scared, how she'd hold my hand crossing the street, how she'd say, "I love you, Mommy," in that tiny voice. Was I supposed to stop being her mother just because she was grown? Was I supposed to say no when I had the ability to say yes? I called her back the next morning and said I'd do it. But I had one condition. She needed to sign a promissory note. Nothing complicated, just a document stating she'd borrowed $50,000 and would pay it back within 5 years. No interest, just the principal. There was a pause on the line. "Mom," Heather said slowly, "you don't trust me." "It's not about trust," I said. "It's about being responsible. This is a lot of money, and I need to know we're both clear about the terms. She agreed, though her tone had cooled. I drafted a simple note, printed it, and mailed it to her. She signed it and sent it back. 2 days later, I transferred $50,000 into her account. She texted me a string of heart emojis and, "Thank you, Mom, you're the best." 3 weeks later, they closed on the house. Heather posted photos on Facebook. The living room with its vaulted ceilings, the kitchen with granite countertops, Connor and Sophia's bedrooms freshly painted, the backyard with a wooden playset already installed. I sat at my kitchen table scrolling through the pictures, feeling a strange mix of pride and emptiness. I was happy for them, but something felt off. I asked when I could come visit. "Soon, Mom," Heather said on my. "We're still unpacking. It's a mess. Give us a few weeks to get settled." Weeks became a month. I asked again. "We're so busy with the kids' school schedules and work," she said. "Maybe next month," but next month came and went, and there was always a reason why it wasn't a good time. The phone calls became less frequent, too. I'd call and she'd answer, sounding distracted. "Can I call you back, Mom? I'm in the middle of something." Sometimes she'd forget to call back. When I'd try again, she'd apologize quickly and say she had to run. I started to feel like an inconvenience. My friends noticed. "When's the last time you saw Heather?" Lorraine asked over lunch one day. I realized it had been 3 months. 3 months since I'd given her $50,000 and she hadn't invited me to see the house I'd helped buy. "That's not right," Joyce said, shaking her head, but I made excuses. She was busy. New house, 2 kids, a husband with a demanding job. I'd see her soon. Lying in bed at night, though, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. I'd scroll through Heather's Facebook posts and see her life unfolding without me. Backyard barbecues with Brad's coworkers, photos of the kids' soccer games, a girls' night out with her friends. She looked happy. I wanted her to be happy. But where was I in that happiness? One night, I pulled out the photo albums, pictures of Heather as a baby, as a toddler, as a teenager. Frank and I at her high school graduation, at her wedding, holding Connor when he was born. All those moments felt so far away now, like they'd happened to different people. I closed the album and sat in the dark, listening to the house creak and settle around me. This was my life now, quiet, alone, waiting for my daughter to find time for me. June arrived with the kind of heat that makes Central Texas unbearable. The air felt thick, and even the mornings offered no relief. I'd started going to the community center for a water aerobics class 3 times a week, mostly just to have somewhere to be. Father's Day was coming up, and I'd been thinking about Frank. The third one without him. Each year it got a little easier, but it still hurt. I wanted to do something to remember him, maybe visit his grave, bring fresh flowers, sit there for a while, and talk to him like I used to. I called Heather midweek to ask about her plans. Maybe we could spend the day together, I thought, honor Frank's memory as a family. She answered on the fourth ring, and I could hear Connor yelling something in the background. "Hi, Mom," she said, sounding rushed. "What's up?" "I was thinking about Father's Day," I said. "I thought maybe we could get together. Visit your dad's grave, have lunch maybe." "Oh," she said, and I heard her tone shift. "We're actually having a dinner here. For Brad's dad." That made sense. Walter was still alive, still healthy, living in Katy with Brad's mother. Of course they'd want to celebrate him. "That sounds nice," I said. "What time should I come?" There was a pause. Not a good pause. The kind that stretches too long and makes your stomach tighten. "Mom," she said carefully, "it's just going to be a small thing. Brad's family." "I'm family," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "I know, but yeah, it's for Brad's dad. It would just be kind of awkward." Awkward. The word hit me like cold water. "I don't understand, Asa," I said. "Why would it be awkward for me to be there?" She sighed, and I heard her step into another room. The background noise faded. "Look, Mom, it's Father's Day. For fathers who are here. Brad's dad is here. Yours isn't. It just, it doesn't make sense for you to come." I sat down at my kitchen table. My hands were shaking. "Your father was a father for 30 years, Heather. He doesn't stop being your father just because he's gone." "I know that. she said, irritation creeping into her voice. But we're not doing a memorial. We're celebrating Walter. It's his day. And I can't be there for that. Mom, please don't make this difficult. It's just dinner. We'll see you another time. I took a breath, trying to steady myself. When will I see you? I haven't been to your house yet. I gave you $50,000 for that house and I haven't even seen it. The line went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. Is that what this is about? The money you think giving me money means you get to control what I do? I don't want to control anything, I said, my voice breaking. I just want to be part of your life. You are part of my life, she said. But I have other responsibilities. Brad's family is here. They're who we're spending the day with. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but that's just how it is. I wanted to say more, but words failed me. She waited for a response, and when I didn't give one, she said, I have to go, Mom. Connor needs help with something. And she hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the screen. Outside, I could hear a neighbor's lawnmower kids playing in a sprinkler life, moving forward like nothing had happened. But inside me, something was breaking. 2 days later, I saw the Facebook post. Heather had put up a picture of her dining room table set with nice plates and a centerpiece of blue and white flowers. The caption read, "Getting ready for Father's Day. So grateful for our beautiful home and amazing family." There were already 20 comments. People saying how lovely it looked, how lucky Brad's dad was, how beautiful her house was. And there in the comments, I saw Walter had written, "Can't wait for tomorrow. Best daughter-in-law ever." I scrolled further. Brad's sister Kimberly had commented, "See you guys tomorrow." Brad's brother Derek wrote, "Bringing dessert." I counted. There would be at least 12 people there. This wasn't a small dinner. This was a party. And I wasn't invited. I closed the app and set my phone down. My chest felt tight, like someone was standing on it. I walked to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. When had I gotten so old? My hair was more gray than brown now, lines around my eyes and mouth. 61 years old, and I'd spent most of them giving. To Frank, to Heather, to everyone but myself. And what did I have to show for it? I picked up my phone and called Heather. She didn't answer. I called again. No answer. I sent a text. I saw your post. That's not a small dinner. Why am I really not invited? 3 hours later, she texted back, "Mom, I told you. It's for Brad's family. Please stop making this about you." I stared at those words. Stop making this about me? About me. As if wanting to be included in my daughter's life was selfish. As if $50,000 and a lifetime of sacrifice meant nothing. I called Lorraine. She came over within the hour, found me sitting in the dark living room. She didn't say anything at first, just sat down next to me on the couch. "I know," she finally said. "I know it hurts." "What did I do wrong?" And I asked. "How did I raise a daughter who treats me like this?" Lorraine took my hand. "You loved her too much. You gave her too much. And she learned to see you as someone who exists to give, not as a person with feelings and needs." "She's my daughter," I said. "And you're her mother," Lorraine replied. "But that doesn't mean you're her servant." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that promissory note Heather had signed. $50,000. She hadn't paid back a single cent, hadn't even mentioned it. I got up, went to my filing cabinet, and pulled out the document. Her signature was right there at the bottom, neat and looping. I, Heather Thompson Morris, agree to repay Opal Thompson the sum of $50,000 within 5 years. I thought about Frank, about how hard he'd worked, how he'd sacrificed so much. If he were here, what would he say? Would he tell me to let it go, to keep giving until there was nothing left? Or would he tell me to stand up for myself? I knew what Joyce would say. I knew what Lorraine would say. But this wasn't their decision. It was mine. And somewhere in the darkness of that sleepless night, I made it. I spent the next morning researching. How enforceable was a promissory note? What were my options? I found the number for Bernard Hayes, the family attorney who'd helped us with our wills years ago. I called his office as soon as they opened. Bernard remembered me. He expressed condolences about Frank again, asked how I was managing. I told him I needed advice about a loan I'd made to my daughter. He asked me to email him a copy of the promissory note, which I did. He called me back an hour later. "This is legally binding," he said. "She signed it, you have proof of the transfer of funds, and the terms are clear. You have every right to demand repayment." "What happens if she can't pay?" I asked. "You can take legal action. Sue for breach of contract. If she still can't pay, you could potentially put a lien on her property, the house she bought with your money." My stomach churned. I don't want to take her house. "I understand," Bernard said gently. "But Opal, you have rights here. If she's not honoring the agreement, you need to protect yourself." I thought about it all day. Protect myself. When had I ever done that? I'd spent my whole life protecting others. Protecting Frank from worry by taking extra shifts. Protecting Heather from disappointment by saying yes to everything. Protecting everyone but myself. By evening, I'd made my decision. I sat down at my computer and wrote an email to Heather. My hands shook as I typed. "Dear Heather, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation regarding Father's Day. I'm deeply hurt that you don't want me at your home. I'm hurt that you seem to have forgotten your father who loved you more than anything. I'm hurt that I've given you so much, including $50,000 that I needed for my own future, and I don't even feel welcome in your life. I need you to reconsider your decision. If you truly don't want me there, I'll respect that. But I'll also need to make some decisions of my own. The money I gave you was a loan as documented in the promissory note you signed. If you're going to treat me like a stranger, I'll need you to start making payments. Please let me know your decision. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times before hitting send. My finger hovered over the button. This was it, the moment where I stopped being the mother who gave everything and became the mother who asked for something back. I pressed send. Wednesday night passed. No response. Thursday came and went. Still nothing. Friday morning, I checked my email obsessively. Finally, at 11:32, a response appeared. I opened it with trembling hands. The message was short. "Mom, I can't believe you're doing this. You're basically blackmailing me. That money was a gift, not a loan. I don't care what some piece of paper says. You can't give someone money and then take it back when you don't get your way. I'm busy getting ready for tomorrow. Please don't contact me again about this. Heather." I read it twice. 3 times. Each word felt like a slap. A gift. She'd signed a promissory note. She'd promised to pay it back. And now she was rewriting history, making me the villain. I called Bernard. "I want to proceed à tiers," I said. "I want a formal demand letter sent." "Are you sure?" he asked. "I'm sure." He drafted it that afternoon. The letter was professional and clear. It stated the terms of the loan, noted that no payments had been made, and demanded full repayment within 30 days. If payment was not received, I would pursue legal action, which could include placing a lien on the property purchased with the borrowed funds. Bernard sent it via email and certified mail. I sent the email at 6 o'clock Friday evening. Saturday was Father's Day Eve. I imagined Heather opening it while she prepared for her party. I imagined her face as she read it. Part of me felt guilty. Most of me felt relieved. That night, I stood in front of Frank's photo in our bedroom. "I hope I'm doing the right thing," I said to his smiling face. "I hope you understand." He looked back at me, frozen in time, forever 58 years old. "She needed to learn," I whispered. "I needed to stop letting her walk all over me." I didn't sleep well, but when I woke up Sunday morning, Father's Day, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt strong. Father's Day dawned clear and hot. I got up early, made coffee, and sat on my back porch watching the sunrise. Birds sang in the oak tree. The world looked peaceful. Inside me, everything was chaos. I went to Frank's grave at 9. The cemetery was quiet, just a few other people scattered among the headstones. I'd brought yellow roses, his favorite. I arranged them in the metal vase attached to his marker and sat down on the grass beside him. "Hey, baby," I said softly. "Happy Father's Day. I miss you so much." My voice cracked. "Heather doesn't want me at her house today. Can you believe that our daughter, the one we gave everything to, she's having a party for Brad's dad and I'm not invited?" I stayed there for an hour, telling Frank everything. About the money, about the promissory note, about the letter. I don't know if I did the right thing, I admitted, but I couldn't keep letting her treat me like nothing. You'd understand, wouldn't you? The wind rustled the leaves. A butterfly landed on Frank's headstone for a moment, then flew away. I wanted to believe it was a sign that he was telling me he understood, but mostly I just felt alone. I was home by 11. The house felt emptier than usual. I tried to distract myself with television with a book, but nothing held my attention. My phone sat on the coffee table like a bomb waiting to explode. It rang at 10:15. Heather. My heart jumped. I answered. What the hell is this? Her voice was shaking with rage. A legal letter. You're seriously threatening to sue me. I asked you to honor the agreement you signed. I said, trying to keep my voice steady. That was a formality. You said so yourself. No, Heather. I said it was important. You're the one who acted like it was nothing. We just bought this house. We can't come up with $50,000. Then you shouldn't have borrowed money you couldn't pay back. She was crying now, angry tears from the sound of it. I can't believe you're doing this to me. On Father's Day, while I'm trying to host a dinner for my family. I'm your family too, I said quietly. But you don't seem to remember that. You're punishing me because I didn't invite you to a party. No, Heather. I'm standing up for myself because you've been using me for years and treating me like I'm worthless. Using you? You're my mother. You're supposed to help me. Help, yes. Be taken advantage of, no. There's a difference. She was sobbing now, really sobbing. Mom, please, we'll lose the house. The bank will foreclose if we can't make the mortgage payments. You're going to make your grandchildren homeless. That stung, but I pushed through it. You have 30 days to figure it out. Get a loan, sell something. I don't know, Heather, but that money was mine. Frank and I earned it, we sacrificed for it, and you've been spending it like it grows on trees. I hate you, she spat. I hate you so much right now. And she hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, shaking. Those 3 words echoed in my head. I hate you. My daughter hated me. I'd given her life, raised her, sacrificed everything, and she hated me. But underneath the pain, there was something else, something solid. I'd stood my ground. I'd said no. And it hurt God, it hurt, but it also felt right. An hour later, Brad called. His voice was pleading. Opal, please. You're killing us here. We can't afford this. Then you'll need to make arrangements, I said. But your family. Families don't do this to each other. Families also don't exclude each other from celebrations and treat each other like ATMs, I replied. He tried to argue, tried to guilt me, tried everything, but I held firm. When he finally gave up, I said, tell Heather she has 30 days. After that, I'm filing suit. I hung up and turned off my phone. I couldn't handle any more calls. That afternoon, I worked in my garden. Frank had always said gardening was therapeutic. Digging in the dirt, pulling weeds, watering plants. There was something honest about it. You put in work, you got results. Not like with people where you could give and get nothing back. My phone was still off when I came inside at 5. When I finally turned it back on at 7, there were 12 missed calls, most from Heather and Brad. But there were also messages from other people. Kimberly, Brad's sister, had texted. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. Heather was wrong to exclude you. Walter, Brad's father, had left a voicemail. Opal, this is Walt. I just found out you weren't invited today. I'm ashamed. If I'd known, I would have insisted you come. You're always welcome in my home. I hope you can forgive this mess. Even Derek, Brad's younger brother, had texted. This is messed up. You deserved better. Their kindness made me cry. Not sad tears exactly. More like relief tears. Someone saw me. Someone understood. I didn't respond to any of Heather's calls or Brad's messages, but I did text Walt back. Thank you for your kindness. I appreciate it more than you know. That night, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine and looked up at the stars. Frank and I used to do this. Sit out here on warm nights, not saying much, just being together. I missed him with an ache that never fully went away. I did it. I said to the sky, Ata. I stood up for myself. I hope you're proud. Somewhere out there among all those stars, I wanted to believe he was. The next 2 weeks were silent. Heather didn't call. I didn't call her. The standoff felt surreal. I'd never gone this long without talking to my daughter. Even when she was away at college, we'd spoken at least once a week. Now, nothing. I tried to fill my days. Water aerobics, lunch with Lorraine and Joyce, volunteering at the library, but everything felt muted, like I was moving through life underwater. At night, I'd lie awake wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe I should call her. Maybe I should apologize. Maybe I should just forget the money and try to repair the relationship. But then I'd remember her voice on the phone. It would be awkward. As if I was an embarrassment. As if I didn't matter. And my resolve would harden again. Connor called me on FaceTime one afternoon. He was 9, gap-toothed and freckled, and my heart squeezed when I saw his face. "Hi, Grandma," he said cheerfully. "Where have you been? We haven't seen you in forever." "Hi, sweetheart," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "I've been here. Just busy with some things." "Mom said you're mad at her." He said, his face growing serious. "Are you—" I chose my words carefully. "Grandma and your mom are working through some grown-up stuff. But I love you very much, okay? And your sister, too." "Okay," he said, not really understanding, but accepting it the way kids do. "When are you coming to visit? I want to show you my room. I have posters of dinosaurs now." "Soon?" I promised, though I didn't know if it was true. "I can't wait to see them." When we hung up, I cried. Those kids didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this, but I also couldn't let Heather's bad behavior slide just because it was uncomfortable. On day 17 of the silent treatment, Heather sent an email. The subject line was proposal. I opened it with my heart in my throat. "Mom, I've been thinking about the loan. I can't pay $50,000 right now, but I can pay $5,000 this month and then $1,000 a month after that. I know that's slower than the agreement, but it's the best we can do. Please accept this. I don't want to fight anymore. Heather." I read it several times. 5,000 upfront, then 1,000 a month. That would take 45 months, nearly 4 years. And there was no apology, no acknowledgement of how she'd hurt me. Just numbers on a page. I called Bernard. "What do you think, Bundes?" "It's up to you," he said. "But that's a long repayment period, and there's no guarantee she'll keep it up. I'd recommend something more aggressive. At least 2,000 a month. Get your money back faster." I wrote back to Heather that evening. "I appreciate the proposal, but those terms don't work for me. You've had the money for months. I want 10,000 upfront, then 2,000 a month for 20 months. That gets me my money back in less than 2 years. If you can't manage that, you'll need to consider selling the house or getting a second mortgage." Her response came within an hour. 2,000 a month. "Are you insane? We can't afford that." I replied simply, "Then find a way. You have 2 weeks left before I file suit." The standoff continued. On day 29, Heather showed up at my door. I was in the kitchen making lunch when I heard the car pull up. I looked out the window and saw her silver SUV parked in my driveway. My stomach dropped. I opened the door before she could knock. She stood on my porch looking exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside. She walked past me into the living room and sat down on the couch where she'd sat 1,000 times growing up. I sat in the chair across from her. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. "Mom, I'm sorry." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I was wrong. About all of it. Father's Day, the money, everything." I waited. I wanted to hear more. "I took you for granted." She continued, tears starting to fall. "I treated you like you were just there to give me things. and that's not who you are. You're my mother. You deserve respect. You deserve love. And I haven't shown you either. Why did you do it? I asked. Why did you shut me out? She shook her head, wiping at her eyes. I don't know. Maybe because you always said yes. Maybe because I got used to it. Maybe because I thought you'd always be there no matter what I did. She looked up at me. That's not an excuse. It's just the truth. Do you know how much it hurt? I asked. How much it still hurts? I'm starting to, she said. Brad's sister called me out at the dinner. She said it was cruel what I did. Brad's dad said the same thing. Even Brad said I was wrong. And then when you sent that letter, I was so angry. But then I realized you were right to be angry. I've been using you, taking from you, not giving anything back. I felt my own tears starting. I would have given you anything, Heather. I did give you everything. But I needed to feel like I mattered to you, like I was more than just a bank account. You are, she said, moving to kneel in front of my chair. She took my hands. You're my mother. You're the most important person in my life. I'm so sorry I made you feel otherwise. We both cried then. I pulled her into a hug and we held each other like we hadn't in years. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. After we'd both calmed down, we sat back and had the hard conversation about the money, about expectations, about boundaries. I can't pay you back right now, she admitted. We really can't. The house payment is $1,500 a month. Brad makes good money, but with 2 kids and all the expenses were stretched thin. Then maybe you bought too much, house, I said gently. She nodded. Maybe we did, but we can't undo that now. Mom, I'm begging you. Give us time. I'll pay you back, I swear. But please don't take legal action. Please don't put a lien on our house. I thought about my options. I could push forward with the lawsuit. I could force their hand. But what would that accomplish? I'd get my money back, maybe. But I'd lose my daughter. I'd damage my relationship with my grandchildren. Was that worth it? I'll give you one more chance, I said finally. But this is the absolute last one, and there are conditions. She nodded eagerly. Anything. First, you pay me $5,000 within 2 weeks. I don't care how you get it. Borrow it, sell something, take out a loan, but I want $5,000 as a show of good faith. Okay, she said. I can do that. I'll call the bank tomorrow. Second, you pay me $1,000 every month after that. No excuses. If you're late even once, the deal is off. I can do that too. Third, asene, I said. And this was the important one. You call me every week. Not to talk about money. Just to talk. To tell me about the kids, about your life, about anything. I want to feel like I'm part of your family again. She was crying again. Yes. I promise. Fourth, I get to visit at least once every 2 months. I want to see the house. I want to spend time with Connor and Sophia. I want to be their grandmother. Yes, absolutely. And finally, I said, every Father's Day, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, we remember your father. We honor his memory because he gave you everything too, and he deserves to be remembered. I will, she whispered. I'm sorry I forgot him. I'm sorry for all of it. We drew up a new agreement right there at my kitchen table. She signed it, I signed it. We both cried some more. And when she left hugging me tight and promising to be better, I felt exhausted and hopeful all at once. Heather kept her word. She borrowed the $5,000 from her bank's personal loan program and transferred it to me 2 weeks later. The following month on the 1st, she sent the $1,000 payment. And the month after that, and the month after that. But more than the money, she kept her other promises. She called every Sunday evening. Sometimes we'd talk for 10 minutes, sometimes for an hour. She'd tell me about Connor's soccer games and Sophia's choir performances. She'd complain about work and Brad's long hours. She'd ask about my garden and my friends. We talked like we used to before money and hurt feelings got in the way. In August, I finally went to visit. The house was as beautiful as the photos. Heather gave me a tour showing me every room with pride. Connor did indeed have dinosaur posters covering his walls. Sophia had a small desk where she did her homework. The backyard had a wooden swing set and a small vegetable garden Heather was trying to maintain. We had dinner that night, all of us together. Brad apologized again for how things had gone. I should have stood up to Heather, he said. Should have told her you needed to be included. I'm sorry I didn't. I appreciated his honesty. Walter and his wife came over for dessert, and it was nice. Almost normal. Connor and Sophia climbed all over me, showing me toys and books and asking a million questions. I stayed the whole weekend sleeping in their guest room, and when I left Sunday afternoon, Heather hugged me at the door and said, "Come back soon, Mom, please." The monthly payments continued. Heather never missed one. Sometimes the phone calls were short and sweet. Other times we'd talk about deeper things. She told me she'd started therapy trying to understand why she'd treated me so poorly. My therapist says I had entitlement issues, she admitted one evening. Said I'd been given so much growing up that I didn't understand the value of sacrifice. You're learning now, I said. I am, she agreed. Better late than never, right? In November, as Thanksgiving approached, Heather called with a request. Mom, will you come here for Thanksgiving, and will you help me make Dad's stuffing recipe? I want the kids to know it. I want to tell them stories about him. I cried when she asked. I'd love that. Thanksgiving was beautiful. The whole family came. Brad's parents, his siblings, and me. Heather made a point of setting a place at the table with Frank's photo and a small candle. Before we ate, she told everyone about him, about how hard he'd worked, how much he'd loved his family, how he'd sacrificed so much. Connor and Sophia listened with wide eyes, learning about the grandfather they barely remembered. To Frank, Brad said, raising his glass. To Frank, his son, everyone echoed. I could barely see through my tears. But they were good tears, healing tears. That night, after everyone had gone home and the kids were in bed, Heather and I sat in her living room with cups of tea. Thank you for not giving up on me, she said. You're my daughter, I said. I'll never give up on you, but I also won't let you walk all over me again. I know, she said. And I'm glad. I needed someone to set boundaries. I needed to learn. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then she said, Mom, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you regret it? Sending that letter, almost taking us to court? I thought about it. About the pain and the fear and the anger. About the sleepless nights and the tears. About standing in front of Frank's grave on Father's Day alone and heartbroken. No, I said finally. I don't regret it, because it taught both of us something we needed to learn. It taught you that actions have consequences. And it taught me that I'm worth standing up for. She nodded, tears in her eyes. You are Mom. You're worth everything. When I drove home the next day, I felt lighter than I had in years. The money was being paid back slowly but surely. But more importantly, I had my daughter back. Not the entitled, careless version, but someone better. Someone who'd been humbled and had chosen to grow from it. The payments continued through winter and into spring, each month like clockwork. By the time summer rolled around again, Heather had paid back almost half of what she owed. We were on track to have everything settled within 2 years, just like I'd asked. Father's Day came around again. This time Heather called a month in advance. Mom, we're having a family dinner, and you're the guest of honor. Will you come? I'd be honored, I said. That Father's Day. I woke up in Heather's guest room. Connor and Sophia made me breakfast, presenting slightly burned pancakes with enormous pride. Heather had set up a memory table with photos of Frank, his favorite hat, and a framed copy of his handwritten recipe for chili. We spent the morning going through old photo albums, telling the kids stories. In the afternoon, extended family came. Brad's parents, his siblings, and this time Lorraine and Joyce, too. Heather had insisted on inviting them. They're your family too, Mom, she'd said. We had a barbecue just like Frank used to make. Brad even wore Frank's old grilling apron, which made me laugh and cry at the same time. Before dinner, Heather stood up and asked for everyone's attention. I want to say something, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Last year, I made a huge mistake. I excluded my mom from Father's Day because I was selfish and thoughtless. It hurt her deeply. It almost ruined our relationship. But my mom, being the strong, incredible woman she is, didn't let me get away with it. She stood up for herself. She demanded respect, and she taught me one of the most important lessons of my life. She turned to look at me, tears streaming down her face. Mom, thank you for not letting me walk all over you. Thank you for loving me enough to set boundaries. Thank you for being the kind of mother who gives and gives, but also knows when to say enough. I love you more than words can say. Everyone clapped. I was crying too hard to speak, so I just held my arms out and she came to me. We hugged while everyone watched, and in that moment I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. That evening, after everyone had left and the kids were asleep, Heather and I sat on our back porch. The stars were coming out bright against the darkening sky. I thought about Frank, about how he'd love these quiet moments. Do you think Dad would be proud of us? Heather asked softly. I think he'd be proud that we found our way back to each other, I said. That's what matters. She leaned her head on my shoulder and we sat there in the warm Texas night, healing and whole. People have asked me since then if I regret what I did, if I wish I'd handled it differently. The answer is no. Because that Father's Day, when I sat alone in my house after sending that legal letter, I learned something more valuable than $50,000. I learned that I am worth more than what I can give. I learned that love without respect is hollow. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you strong. My daughter needed to learn those lessons too. And sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is refuse to be a doormat. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give is the word no. The money will be fully repaid in about 6 more months, but the real healing has already happened. My relationship with Heather is stronger now than it's been in years. Not because everything is perfect, but because it's honest. She respects me now, and I respect myself. Frank would be proud of both of us, because we fought for what mattered. We fought for each other, and in the end, we won. So no, I don't regret canceling that mortgage check. I don't regret demanding repayment. I don't regret standing my ground, because in doing so, I didn't just get my money back. I got something far more valuable. I got my self-respect, I got my daughter back, and I got the knowledge that I'm worth fighting for. That lesson, it's priceless. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? Have you ever felt taken for granted by family? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's been giving and giving without getting anything back. Sometimes we all need permission to stand up for ourselves. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. You're worth more than that. We all are, and take care of yourselves out there. And happy Father's Day to all the dads and to all the memories of dads we hold dear.